So, I'm trying to write now, not right now, obviously I'm driving at this very moment, but at around this time I am trying to write, and I am struggling to write, about the issue of being unloved. I think I've talked about this before. I wrote my last volume of my ongoing series, Ruminations of a Low Status Male. My last volume went under the title On Being Unwanted. Now I'm writing about On Being Unloved. And it so happened that all of the stories with the incels dominating the news, well, not dominating the news, but coming into the news, they very appropriately manifested themselves, or rather the media, the lying, thieving, murderous media, manifested the incel question, the incel phenomenon, quite appropriately. So that provided some material for me. But I have to say that, for the most part, writing about being unloved is difficult. And it's difficult not least because when people hear the idea that you are writing about being unloved, they think that you are just searching for reassurance, as though there were no such thing as actually being unloved. But there is such a thing as being unloved. It exists. It is a state that it exists. So I'm not trying to get assured of anything. There is no assurance. The assurance, the attempt to find assurance, is a dead end. It's for cowards. It's for those who want to evade the unsavory facts of the matter. But on the other hand, it's difficult to write about it in a clinical way, even though it is a clinical state. You know, if love can be talked about as a real phenomenon, and I think it can, I think that love is a real, tangible thing, even if it's a thing that it's, you know, that's often, it's often left undefined, or is often just spoken of in a kind of fruity, obviously non-literal, but kind of airy-fairy kind of way that almost seems to presume that love is some mystical, poetical thing exclusively, when it isn't. It's a real thing. It's an actual thing, and a person is loved or he is unloved. And I'm trying to write about the latter, what it's like to be unloved. But it's, again, the difficulty of distinguishing between, or not distinguishing, it can be distinguished. It's somehow easier to write about the state of being unwanted. That involves the ego, much more so. But the state of being unloved, well, it still involves the ego, because you know, you desire to be loved. But it's a very different kind of phenomenon. It's even more visceral. So somehow talking about, oh, you know, well, I'm unloved. It's just the state of things. It's just the way things are. Then it's almost like you automatically have to respond to the kind of response that gets, which is, oh, stop being a drama queen. Oh, you are loved. You know, whatever they try to do, whether it's tough love, whether it's what they would consider tough love, like, you know, oh, man up, stop bitching, or whether it's, you know, the kind of attempting to reassure, which is bullshit. It's a lie, it's not true. Saying, well, you are loved. You are loved. But both of those are evasions. Both of those are beside the point. I'm trying to talk about what it's like to be unloved. What are the ramifications of being unloved? What are the consequences of being unloved? These are the issues that I am trying to bring to the fore here. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. Maybe because, in part, being unloved is to speak of an absence. You have to, the only way to speak of an absence is to contrast it to the presence of the thing. Just like darkness can only be described as the absence of light. Being unloved can only be described as a state of absence, where love does not exist, where once it existed but now it doesn't exist anymore, or maybe in some cases where it never has existed. So you want to write about it. I'm trying to write about it in a clinical sort of way. Not clinical in the sense of dry, but trying to write about it in a way that is accurate, that avoids sentiment, that avoids, well, not all sentiment, but that avoids cheap sentiment, that avoids false sentiment. And it seems as though there's something just so traumatizing to the mind about the idea of a person being unloved. It's such an awful matter to contemplate that automatically defenses go up. And you can't just look at the thing for what it is. Instead, there have to be excuses made. There have to be exceptions made. There has to be denial. There has to be rebuttal. There has to be chiding. You can't even mention being unloved in a manner that is not begging to be reassured, without somebody thinking that you're begging to be reassured and either being annoyed by the idea that you're begging to be reassured, or feeling just like, oh, and then being reassuring. But the thing still exists. It is what it is. It is a thing in itself, the state of being unloved. And that's what I'm trying to examine right now. And as I've said a couple times already, not to make this extraordinarily tedious, but it is hard. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to go into because automatically, even for the person writing about it, defenses are up, exceptions are made. But I think it's something that needs to be covered. What about those who are indeed unloved? What about them? What can be said about their state that is accurate, that is truthful, that, you know, I'm a believer that exploring the truth is an end in itself, even if it seems like an immediately depressing truth, even if it seems like a truth that in an immediate sense is something that you'd rather not hear about, you'd rather not know about, you'd rather not think is actually there. I think that there is something that is worthy, that is worthwhile about that very immediacy. That you know, that very putting one's finger on the very thing that is so wretched and so dread-inducing that you don't want to think that it's actually there. Just like you'd rather look past the unloved. You'd rather look past the absence towards the presence. Maybe because it's too upsetting, maybe because it's too depressing, maybe because it, I don't know, maybe one feels indicted in some way by it, by the fact of it, the fact of the unloved. But I don't want to just pity them. And as I don't want to just be pitied. I don't want to be pitied at all. And I don't think a writer should strive to invite pity. I mean, people are going to react the way that they're going to react, but the idea shouldn't be to induce pity. Pity is it's a very base impulse. Pity is different from sympathy. Sympathy is okay. If you have sympathy, that's good. If you have pity, pity is never unmingled with condescension. Pity and condescension always are hand in glove. They always coexist one with the other. And I want nothing of it, nothing of either one. So we'll see how this goes. If you're watching this and you're inclined to pray for me, then I appreciate your thoughts and prayers.